Hi, I'm Phil Anderson, and I'm running for United States Senate to represent Wisconsin. Tonight, I'm not going to talk about one of my campaign themes. I'm going to talk about politics. My family and I are watching the results of the Iowa caucuses. It's very interesting stuff. As you can probably guess, I'm a little sympathetic for Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, a very good man, not a libertarian member of the party, but seems to have a pretty strong idea of what libertarianism is and represents it pretty darn well. Unfortunately, because he's not a candidate who can be bought and paid for as a member of the establishment, he also got a pretty raw deal from the press and from the Republican establishment over these last couple of months, and it really affected him tonight, I think. Had things been done fairly in terms of representing him in poll numbers and in the debates over the last month or so, 2 months or so, he probably would have done better tonight and separated himself from the bottom end of the polling in the Iowa caucus, but he didn't. I hope he considers moving forward, but it's going to be very difficult because not doing well in the Iowa caucus is going to make it more difficult for him to raise money as well. But the point here is that if you're not a candidate who can be bought and paid for, then you're not a candidate who the establishment of either party, for that matter, but especially in this case, the Republicans, are going to support. So he's going to be at a disadvantage this whole way through. No matter how much money he raises, the Republican establishment and their cronies in the media are still going to give him a raw deal. So here's what I'm telling you folks tonight who support Rand Paul, and there's lots of you out there. Be a libertarian. Vote libertarian. Don't bother with the Republican establishment. They're always going to marginalize you. They're always going to push you aside. And the reason is because you can't be bought and paid for. If you can be bought and paid for, like Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, to a certain extent even Donald Trump, and certainly Ted Cruz, then you'll be backed, right? Then they'll get behind you and you make news for the media by being a jerk in public like Donald Trump has or whatever. But if you're just a solid person who has principles, who's not going to be bought and paid for, then you don't stand much of a chance in the Republican establishment. And that was shown tonight. It'll probably be shown again in New Hampshire. And as far as Rand lasts in the campaign, he'll continue to get a raw deal. So what I'm asking you, what I'm inviting you to do, is to consider becoming libertarians, voting libertarian. And if you have hope someday of reclaiming the Republican Party for libertarian views, the best way to do it is to not facilitate them screwing you over, schlonging you, as Donald Trump would say. Don't let them do that. Right now, in a sense, to borrow a phrase, you Rand Paul supporters that are in the Republican Party are the beard of the Republican Party. You're their cover. They can say that they're acknowledging libertarian views without actually doing anything about it because Rand Paul is part of them and because some people pay lip service and vote for him. What would really be a radical move and what would forward liberty more in the long run is if the people that support Rand Paul and libertarian ideals would leave the Republican Party. They may lose, they probably lose, vote libertarian, and then they would have no choice but to acknowledge libertarian views and come around and represent you. But even then, in the long run, who knows if that'll ever happen. But in the short term, consider voting libertarian. Those of us who belong to the Libertarian Party and who are running as libertarians really respect your views, really stand for you, will really vote that way, and will really and truly not be bought and paid for like almost every other candidate in the Republican primary. Thanks, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.